Um, so like I was telling you guys earlier, we're really here to talk about grief, loss, and I will say like I think letting go and forgiveness, and clearly it's tied together because there's an and, but I think it's just so important to understand how we let go and we forgive because those I think things go hand in hand. And I don't necessarily think that like grief is always necessarily about forgiveness. It most certainly can be, but I think that grief it kind of stands on its own, and I think it's so important to understand the 5 steps, which we'll get into of grief. Um, we'll jump into it. We'll discuss it. I have a ton of stuff I want to say, but I want to also make sure we hear you guys. So the weight of loss may never go away, but we learn how to carry it. Does anybody have any thought? I love that quote. So does anybody have any thoughts or insight or their own reflection on that?
So for me, that hits home with me. I've lost too many loved ones to either substance abuse or mental health, um, and suicide. And so the weight of that can always be very heavy, especially in the beginning, but I don't think we ever fully get over that type of loss, but we do get to learn to carry it differently. So I do get to be able to carry it different than maybe when I first heard the news, or maybe today, not letting it drain all of my energy or not letting it um, take away from what else I'm doing in life, but hold space to like honor it. I get to do it a little bit differently today than as opposed to when I was in my addiction, things would take me all the way down.
I love that. I think that's great insight. Thanks, Cami.
Yeah.
Do you want to share anything?
Um,
And no pressure. I don't want you to feel pressured at
no,
all.
I'm fine. This is all, I mean, this has been quite a few years in going with helping my daughter go through different things and get over different things. And I'm just trying to find out what I need to do to help her, to support her, to just be there, to listen. And I'm like a sponge. I'm just gathering as much information so that I can help in whatever way I can. And that's why I'm kind of here, just to kind of learn and soak it all in
I,
and stuff like that. So
I love it. Are you open to me asking you a question?
sure.
Okay. Um, have you been able to have enough time to ask her like what she thinks she needs?
Um, you're talking in what sense? In just a listening ear or support financially? What, I'm not sure exactly what you're.
Yeah, great question. Let me be more specific. I appreciate that. So you just said you wanted like to understand and be there to listen and stuff. And I don't know what the financial situation is. I always encourage as much as possible for any loved one, whatever relationship it is, to do their best to not help as much financially as possible because I think that's a healthy pressure that they need to learn how to handle themselves. That's my advice. Cami may go like, Chris, you're dumb and crazy, and that's okay, right? We can have those disagreements. I'm okay with that.
No, I don't disagree at all. I think that the less financial help, the more obligation they have to learn to figure things out on their own and learn to start being self-sufficient. And I know when I got help while I was in my addiction financially, it was never used for anything good to further my life or to better my situation. And so learning how learning how to be self-sufficient and do things by myself, it was really beneficial to me when my parents or my family put up boundaries and said no more. So I
Right.
agree with you, Chris.
Okay.
Yeah,
Eh,
I'm sorry.
no, no, go ahead, please.
I mean, I realized that at the beginning we were enabling, and we've learned things the hard way and financially. And otherwise. But I'm finally learning that you gotta just say sorry. Here's what you need to do. What you need to do, and go do it. Learn how to do it yourself. And so yeah.
And Carolee, I want to say this. Um, First, I think most of us have learned the hard way.
Yes.
And I'm just going to be honest. Like, I think I coach people about finances with like some of their stuff in their life. And I just think most of us make decisions so much based on money. And I'll say, like, in the end of the day, like, whatever happens to us at the end, I think, like, we go home to God. Money doesn't matter, right? It seems very significant here, but it's very insignificant in like the meaning of life.
Exactly.
And it's so easy for us to go like, oh, I'm helping this person financially or I'm not. But really, the truth of the matter is, like, us telling you not to help them financially has nothing to do with the money, right? It has to do with them feeling that they're capable, that they feel empowered, that they get to make their own, like, because usually when we give money, like, it comes with certain, like, hey, I have a boss, they pay me, like, it comes with certain rules and guidelines, right? No different than a parent. Every time somebody gets money from somebody else, when I get clients, it comes with certain guidelines that they expect from me, right? There's nothing wrong with that, but that's the truth. And finally, when they can earn their own money, when they can determine their own journey, as you said, it's a journey. um it makes them feel more confident, feel more capable, feel better about themselves, feel like they're not like just the person that's just taking and taking and taking. And all those things sit in that shame and guilt. And I think we'll get to it in a little bit. And, I know we're kind of off topic, but I love this topic. So I hope you know that you're making healthy decisions. Um, and the truth of the matter is it has nothing to do with money. It just has to do with helping that person see a different view of themselves. Because when we get taught learn helplessness over time, and usually it comes from like people that love us. I'm not saying like that people love us mean to hurt us, but just we want to help so much. Like I want to help my wife and my daughter so much, but I can also teach my daughter so much of like I'll do it for you that she doesn't technically learn how to do it herself, right? And that's so difficult. Um, yeah, and so I just want to encourage you to continue on your boundaries, continue on your new, vision that you have, and hopefully we can get the family member to do the same on their. Do you have any other thoughts? And again, we're open to it. There's no rush. We'll move to the next slide. But again, I love the discussion we're having. So
If you don't mind, keep this up. I like taking notes. So
yeah, of course. So I think, or I'll say this from the perspective of both sides, the family member and the addict. Nobody's getting out of this thing without any grief, without any trauma, without any negative experiences. Like there's hurt on both sides, most likely. And one may be justified or not, and we'll get into forgiveness later and how it really doesn't matter if the sense of like if you necessarily believe it, but if the other person believes it, it's still true to them. So we'll hopefully be able to capture that a little bit. But the 5 stages of grief. So usually I see this a lot of times like it's in a circle, and I want to emphasize. So I worked with a therapist that I am for a while, and he couldn't stand like the 5 steps of grief. He's like, man, I just can't stand it. I hate it. Um, he's like, because it doesn't really full, and I don't think there is a full way to like really put it on paper. And he's like, it's never like stage 1, stage 2. We're always like at points when we're grieving, we're in any of these, and we can bounce around. It's not like a linear thing. And I want you guys to speak to this in your own experience. Like my uncle took his life a few years ago. Wasn't an addict, didn't have any drugs or alcohol issues, just his wife died. He loved her tremendously, and he didn't know how to cope with life without her being here. Um, we just never thought he'd do it. He was very a Christian oriented guy, and we just never thought he would be the person to take his life. And it like, I will say, like, I don't even know if I ever felt like I denied it, right? Like I fully embraced it, but did I feel anger? Yes. Did I feel like, man, I'd love to bargain, right? Like we go in and we go like, man, just if I would have spent more time with them. Did I feel depressed? Like I cried for like not straight for months, but I cried for months and months and months. And like even for a few years after, every time I talk about it, it would bring up the emotional side. And I just want to go like, do you guys, from your own experience, have you felt any of these stages? Do you feel like these are true, or do they represent you at all? Do you guys have your own experience that you're willing to share?
There's one for me that's not listed that I feel, at least I feel like I went through, was numb.
Mm,
I got a little numb to, well, a lot numb. I wasn't able to cry for a little while. I wasn't able to communicate or be mad or accept. I just got really numb for a while. That was difficult for me. I think that was another stage of grief that I definitely went through. Um, I think I've touched on all five of these, denial, anger, depression, acceptance, but I really did go through stages of numb. And I don't know that that was healthy. Well, I don't know that it's healthy or unhealthy. It just was. It's just what I experienced um, in losing people that I have loved.
so yours came mainly from losing somebody that you love. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And did you feel like you started with numb? Like, was that the first thing that just hit was
hmm
numbness? Okay.
Well, I'm, I've lost a few people that are very dear to me, but the one experience in mind, I had a fiance who had passed of a suicidal overdose, and yeah, I was very numb for a long time. Later, the other stages of grief came to me. Later, there was breakdowns and denial and anger, but in the beginning, I just don't know if my body or my soul or my mind was protecting me, or maybe I just needed that space and that time to not feel yet. I don't know why I felt it, but I did. I went through it for a little while.
Cam, I love that you brought up the numbness. I think, um, and again, like going back to the therapist I worked with, I think that's the reason it's challenging, right? Because you could not start with denial. You could start with numbness, and then you could go like, okay, I accept it, and then it could go back to like, oh, I'm angry about it. Like I don't accept, right? And I just think there's so many layers to this, but I love that you brought up the numbness because I think that is something that's very true. I can relate to that a ton. Curly, what do you
You
think?
know that your screen is black, Chris?
Is it really
Yeah, just
the whole screen?
heads up.
Like, can
No,
you,
no, just you, just you.
what?
I can see him.
Oh, you can?
Yeah.
Cammy, do
Okay,
you
never
know that
mind.
I'm just black to you? I'm
You're a black
everybody
square.
else.
You were there and now you're not. So I
Dang,
can
that's
see her in the film. I don't know. Okay.
okay. I'm gonna be honest. I turned off my camera because I was wiping my nose, and I figured like you probably did not want to see me wipe my nose with a tissue. But then I turned it back on. So let me know if it doesn't work, and I'll see if I can adjust something.
Yeah, I can't see you, but that's okay.
Just imagine I'm there.
Okay, deal.
Yeah.
We're
Well, I'll
good.
send you a picture. I'll cut out a picture and send it to you, and then you'll have a picture, and you can just post it right over
Deal.
the
We're
blackness for
good.
next week. Okay.
Okay.
Um, Carolee, do you have any thoughts or insight? Anything you can reflect on this?
Well, I have lost my parents, but it was just through, you know, health reasons and stuff like that. But I guess in the sense of grief and loss, um, the person that I'm gonna cry. I hear this. When I first found out all the things that were going on in in my daughter's life, it was like a shock to me because I I thought everything was fine, and I guess I was just living in my own little world, you know, trying to be a good mom and trying to take care of things, and then finding out things weren't perfect in my mind. and that there was problems. And then I guess I went through a depression, I guess, in a way, because I'm going, "Ugh, I'm a horrible mom, you know? I could have prevented this. I didn't do this right, or I didn't do that right." But then after going through the different, helping our daughter going through different things, I finally learned, I did the best I could. But this is her journey, her struggles, her trials, and it was not anything that I did wrong. And it was just things that happened to her that unfortunately she needs to learn to own up to handle, to deal with, to overcome. And the fact that she is now in sober living for a second time, I am so very proud of her, because she did a lot of this of her own free will, because not because we were forcing her to or anything, but because she chose it, because she wants to get out of that vicious cycle. And I'm I don't have any of the experiences that you both have dealt with, but we're all, I guess, on different roads and different ways of handling things. And I think I'm in a better place, because rather than putting myself down and saying that I was the cause because I didn't do something, but just being there, listening to her and being there for her. And again, setting boundaries and not enabling has been it's helped me grow. It's helped me to understand how best to help her. Does that make sense?
I love that. For sure, it makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. And I think that even though the experiences are different, the emotion is the same, right? I know that when I was in my addiction, similar, I mean, kind of different, but my mother grieved me as if I was already gone. Um, and she really was kind of looking forward to that to take away and eliminate some of the fear that she was living in. I know that I put my mom through all of that, but I'll tell you one thing, nothing you nothing she's been through is because of something you could have done differently. The fact that you showed up here today shows that you're interested in her well-being and that you want what's best for her, and her experiences are her experiences, and she's lucky to have you.
I second that. If it's okay, I'd like to throw out a few points and share a story that hopefully gives us all a different little bit of a shift in our perspective. First, Carolee, I love that you talk a lot about like listening and understanding. I think that's one of the most underrated and most profound things we can have as connecting as human brothers, like mom to daughter, doesn't matter, right? Husband to wife, human to human. I'll say it that way because I think that's more important. Getting a little emotional, so you guys will get to watch me cry. My wife sees it all the time, so she's used to it. Yeah, I think there is this thing that most of us miss because we want to like be able to tell the other person, we want to help the other person, so we think if we tell them like that listening and understanding and just nothing more than that, like not even anything said, just listening, there's something healing about that. And I don't think you have to go through massive loss, to understand grieving. I think grieving can be like you mentioned some things that are very difficult to grieve, right? Like this and forgiveness, which we'll get to, of like, man, what could I done? Like, how did this all happen? Like, there's a grief of just like I was molested as a kid. Like, there's a grief of like losing that purity. We have so many times, and I don't mean this like in a negative way, we have so many opportunities to grieve in life because there's so many things that like it's not just the death of someone. There's so many things to grieve in life. And I had this client one time. I mean, he was a really, really incredible guy. And he told me, and he's like, Chris, we're sitting across, he's sitting in one chair, I'm sitting across from him in another chair. And he said, I don't dream very often. Or he said, at least I don't remember my dreams very often. And he said, but I remember this one dream and I have it over and over again. He goes, like, there's very few dreams that I remember, and there's very few dreams that happen over and over. And he said, but I'll tell you this. He said, this dream is really profound to me. He says, I see myself walking on this road, and I walk over, and there's like an ocean. So I walk over to the edge of like the road, and I look down. And as I look down, there's a dock where all these big like cruise liners and pull up to. He says there's this one ship that pulls up, and I notice on the dock there's this little old lady just standing there waiting for clearly one of the ships to pull up. And this ship pulls up, the bridge goes down, they walk down, and one after another, like these big strong people get off the ship, and they walk over, and one after one lines up in front of her, right in front of her. And she walks over, and I can't see because it's at a distance, so I can't see exactly what's happening. But I see that they're different. Like there's a little lady and there's these people, and she walks over and she hands each person a thing. This person another thing. This person another thing. And he realizes like this person gets cancer. This person gets drug addiction. This person gets their family dies. And we all come here not for no reason. We all come here for a specific reason. And when we can understand that there's a purpose, there's a journey, there's an opportunity, and there's something to be learned and grow from this experience, it gives it more meaning. And that personally helps me go through the grief, because I see when something negative happens to a loved one, I go like, there's something for me to learn and there's something for them to learn. And how do we listen and understand each other's journey, opportunity, because they may look vastly different, they may feel vastly different, yet they're both very real. It's one of my favorite stories. It's not mine. I
love
stole it.
that. I
It
love
is.
that.
Thank you. I'll tell if I can get a hold of them, because it's been a few years. I'll tell them like, hey, I share the story with everybody and they love it. I should go
I
to his
just
office
think
and tell them.
it's so true. I mean, everybody's just fighting a different battle, right? And we're all just trying to figure out how to walk each other home. So thank you for sharing that, Chris. I love that.
Yeah, thank you guys for listening. I appreciate it. Okay, Carolee, did you get everything you needed off that slide?
Yes.
Okay, I can always send it.
Taking a picture of it's actually easier.
That's a great idea. I can also send them to you if you want. So we'll go through this pretty quickly because I know we have about 30 minutes left. I want to make sure we get to like forgiveness, because I think that's truly one of the most important things that we can all experience. And I'm sure I'm going to give you guys some common quotes that everybody said, but I still love them because I think they're so meaningful and they made such an impact on me when I was first learning to forgive. So 12 ways to grief. Does anybody want to read that for me? And you don't have to read them all, but do you want to read some or read the ones that mean something to you?
Read it.
Okay, wonderful.
So 12 ways to deal with grief. One is take time off of work or your business, take a trip, talk about your grief with a therapist, request hugs, cry and cry and cry, laugh and laugh and laugh, take naps, eat comforting food, move your body in a gentle and loving ways, sweat a little, hang out with a pet, and do anything that feels nourishing to your soul.
Okay, appreciate it. Does any of those ring true to
Mhm.
either of you?
Yeah.
Would
Any,
you
any
would you be
issues that happen.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Well, just for any issues that happen in your life, you need to kind of step back and, you know,
I think those that deep breath, I don't know about you, but that's almost on a daily basis for me, not because I'm grieving, but just for peace and, clarity of mind. I like to like there's a favorite saying I really love. It's slow down to the speed of wisdom. And it's one of those profound statements that I find so true. Like the slower we get, the more we can feel and hear that wisdom. and we don't have to jump from thing to thing, which goes back to taking time off business. Cammy, which ones ring true to you?
Oh, I was just taking in what you said, and as soon as you said that, I slowed down. So, I mean, that's a great quote. You're full of them today.
Like,
Um, I know, I'm loving this. I should be taking notes too. Uh, I mean, I think all of them, for me, also talking about it. I mean, I had an opportunity today to share my story on a podcast, and I don't think that I've um shared it in a little while, so it brought up a lot more emotion than it had in the past, where it was recited and easy and I could tell it. Today I really felt it, and it was really healing. It was really healing to be able to say some of those things out loud, to be able to share it in a way that I hope helps other people. But if nothing else, it helped me to be able to cope with it differently, like the first quote said.
I love it.
Yeah, one thing that I'm understanding that, I mean, I'm not by any stretch of the imagination a pro at any of this, just for, because I'm going through it for the first time. But going over to New Zealand, I'm sure there's going to be other people that are dealing with things and 12-step programs and places, and that's kind of another reason why I wanted to do, gather as much information as I can, that as I share my experience that happened with my family member, and that I can kind of share some of these things. I don't know, maybe helping in some way for someone. I mean, does that make any sense?
I love that.
Yeah, it makes total sense. And I think that that's, I mean, from my understanding, that's exactly what you're going out to do, right? Is offer people support and love. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming it's for a religious reason, but even being there, religious or not, we're adding support, we're showing love, we're showing up for people, we're communicating or being that soft person. So I think that that's exactly what you're going to spend your time to do, is sit with people and hold space for people, and that's really amazing.
I'm looking forward to it, but I'm also kind of nervous. So,
That's a good thing. That means you're in a spot to grow. Um, I really, looking at the list, I think it's not on there, Shirley, but you said it, like helping someone, right? I think that is such, and I think it usually takes time. Like Cammy said, like she went on to the podcast, and maybe that could be next, a little asterisk next to therapist, like podcast. You got to go on a podcast. Oh, not joking. But I think, like, in all reality, being able to share with somebody else is extremely important. Helping somebody else is extremely important. Like for me, it gives it so much meaning to what I went through. It's not just pointless.
mm-hmm.
And I think when we can help somebody else, like now we see, first of all, we see our growth, we see the loved ones grow, so we can extend that hand to somebody else. But also it gives us, some healing and some purpose to go like this. There was a reason for this,
Right.
and I think that's so meaningful. Go ahead.
There was something that I learned that I thought was just, I mean, it was, in a way, it was kind of mind blowing, because I thought that is so amazing. That on one of the podcasts that I listened to, the person shared how, when you are trying to connect with God, you're connecting vertically, up and down, me to God. Well, when we're connecting with other people and helping them and serving them, that's horizontal.
Mm,
Well, when you put those two together, what does it form? The
cross,
cross.
of course.
And that, to me, it just kind of like, duh, you know?
I
And
love
that's
that.
the symbol for Christianity. And it was amazing to me, because I never thought of it in quite that sense.
I think that's a profound statement.
Cool.
I love that insight. Um, another thing is I love the cry, cry, cry. I think that's so huge for me. I think
I
just
had $1 for every tear I've shed.
we'd have a lot of money. Yeah. And I think, to me, I think it's so important. It's like a cleansing. It's like when it rains and you go outside and it smells so fresh and the earth just feels cleansed. It's the same thing like when we cry, it's releasing this thing. And it can certainly be tears of joy as well. Yet it's releasing this thing that in a sense like purifies us. And I really like that. One of my favorite, this may sound weird, but I love crying. I think it's really important and so
It's
profound, and
therapeutic.
it is. And I think that when, as you said so many times, Carolee, like when we help someone, when we actually listen and seek understanding, there's some emotional movement that happens inside. And like Cami said, when we talk about it with a therapist, a coach, a loved one, somebody we can trust, and somebody that we can actually just have that they listen instead of trying to tell us what to do or fix it, there's something, there's that compassion and there's a relief around that. And I really like that.
Right, because one of the things that I've learned is if you listen to someone and not try to tell them what to do, they probably already have in their mind, I need to do this, I need to do this. But just being a sounding board is huge for people.
So well said. Okay. Anybody else have anything they want to throw into this page before we move on?
Nope.
Okay. I'm going to give you one more like little quote saying, again, it's not mine. It's going to go back to kind of the speed of wisdom, slowing down the speed of wisdom. But since you guys like that one, I'll give you this one. So the Navy SEALs say this. They say slow is smooth and smooth is fast. And most of us want our healing to be quick. We want our problems to be over quick. We want our success to be quick. We want the relationship to be rebuilt quickly. But the truth of the matter is, if we can slow down, slow is smooth, and the smoothness becomes fast, right? Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. If we can trust anybody in their training, I would think it's the Navy SEALs. So
Yeah,
I really love that quote as well.
I love that.
Okay, who's open to reading this quote?
I'll read it this time.
Wonderful.
Letting go doesn't mean that you don't care about someone anymore. Someone anymore. It's just realizing that the only person you really have control over is yourself.
Does anybody else find that challenging besides me? Like, I find that almost to be one of the most challenging things. Like, man, I love to just tell this person what to do. I love to, control this situation. I love to help my wife not do that thing that I probably stumbled over 7 times. And if I just tell her, it'll all work out fine. I don't know about you ladies. It doesn't work out fine. She's like, thanks for telling me that. I'm going to do, and I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Like, we all have to learn from our experiences. And there is some freedom that comes from like, we are here to learn from our experiences. Any thoughts or insight?
Well, you just hit the nail on the head. We're all here to learn from our experiences.
Okay.
And I agree, not, having control over just you is sometimes a difficult thing. Um, letting go, it says, letting go means you don't care about someone anymore, but it also can be something, letting go of habits, letting go of behaviors, letting go, and knowing that you're the only one you have control over can sometimes be tricky. And also in different situations, it can be really liberating.
Well
Well,
said.
it's interesting, if I may jump in, because my daughter shared with me that she's been feeling, uh, you know, thoughts of suicide since she was 9 years old. And that just completely blew me away. I'm going, what? I mean, ugh. And, but I'm also noticing that the fact that she's opening up and sharing with me, that right there says a lot, that she feels comfortable enough to do that. And too many times, whenever she had come to me and told me different things, instead of responding like, what, and wigging out, I just listen and shut up and listen and shut up and listen and shut up. And, but a lot of this I'm finding it wasn't me. I was getting help from the other side to learn to just shut up and listen.
I think that's amazing. I think questions to understand and listening and shutting up, I think that's our new motto. Listen and shut up. Listen and shut up. It's gonna be our next slide. I'm gonna put that on real quick. I love it. I want to just since it popped in my head, and I know Carolee, you guys are going to be gone and stuff, and if you want to catch in the previous weeks, they're all being recorded, so this will be recorded too. So if you miss anything, or you're like, man, I wish I could go back and grab this quote or whatever it is, it'll all be recorded, so they'll be on Circle just like you signed up, so you guys can go back and watch any of these over again if you want.
Okay, cool.
And as we continue on the weeks, even if you're not here, you can still go back and grab them. So I don't know about you guys, but this little picture melts my heart. So I put it on there because I love it. Forgiving, man, I think it's truly, I don't know why it's so challenging. And I'm gonna be honest, like when I was younger, I didn't even think about it. I was just angry, like mad at the world, mad for situations that I didn't even need to be mad about. But I always heard the quote, being mad at somebody is drinking the poison, expecting them to die. And I think that hit me so hard. Like, man, I'm holding all this anger, and it doesn't matter if the other person knows that I've forgiven them. I mean, it's nice if I'm closely related to them that I can tell them I forgave them. Maybe they don't even know they wronged me, or like that I felt that they wronged me. Yet I think there's something so important. And I love the first one, like, don't deny you've been hurt. I think for a lot of us, as we go through our human experience, we just go like, oh, I shouldn't feel that way. Oh man, like, oh, that's dumb. Oh man, like maybe that's not even how it was meant. That may all be true and it may not. Yeah, like when we deny our own hurt, it's really hard when we don't honor our own feelings. When we don't listen and understand our own self and our own feelings. Right? We've been talking a lot about like listening to others and understanding them. Yet we also need to like take time and sit down and listen to ourselves and not deny our own feelings and emotions because they're real to us. Any thoughts on the first bullet point before we go to the second
one? There's just, I'm sure that the comment that I'm going to say is probably all inclusive for all four of them, but there was a time when and this, Cammie, you could probably think this, but women do this more than men do. We have a database, and we hold on to things forever, ever, and ever, and then we lash out at our loved one, our boyfriend, our husband, or whatever, and say, well, 15 years ago you did this, and and that's just something that we do. But at one point in my life, it just came to me, I need to bury that database. And when I stopped bringing up things from years ago, it made my relationship with my husband 10 times better because I just let it go. And like Elsa sings, let it go.
I love it. I'm like, we can always tie in a Disney quote. I love it.
There you go.
Cammie, do you want to reflect on your database? I'm just joking. I'm totally joking.
I'm like, no, I don't.
Like,
There's too much in there.
Chris, you're going on the database now. Thank you. Um,
That's funny. I think it's true. I mean, I think we all can, the things that sting or that pierce or that hurt the most, it's kind of difficult once they apologize to just put it away. I mean, the pain's still there, so let's not just address the incident, let's address the emotion and like what I can do to help with not feeling that way anymore so that I'm more able to safely put it down as opposed to like, okay, I'm over it, even though I'm holding it in my chest and my heart, and I'll hold it over your head next month. But it's just different when you're able to um, still have it, but not use it. Use it for your own healing, for your own healing the emotion. But like it says on the first one, don't deny that it happened. You don't have to deny that it hurt you. You just have to learn how to deal with the hurt.
I really like that. And I think it ties in a second bullet point. Like it's so important. Part of forgiveness is to process our feelings and emotions, ours, or let somebody else process their feelings and emotions, right? And I'm going back to the thing that Carolee keeps saying: listen, understand, right? If we cannot open up space, and it's Cameron, you said it the same different way, but same thing. Like there needs to be space, safe space, where there's not so much negative raised emotions to allow us to like process that. Not agree. Like I tell my wife this all the time. I'm not here to seek agreement. We're here to seek understanding from each other. I think there's vast difference there. Right? Like we don't have to
Yeah.
agree on everything. That's not reality. We're human beings, we're different. That's okay. We have to honor that. But we do want to do our best to understand our each other's perspective. And I find a lot of times when I at least understand a different perspective, I do have some agreements in it. I go like, oh, that makes sense actually. I didn't think about it that way because my database is different than your database. And mine's shiny and clean, and I got a lot of stuff stored in there, and I haven't even buried it yet. So, um, and I think, I don't know about you ladies, but one of the toughest things for me was forgiving myself. And I think when people, I'm going to I usually say everybody in the world, but I'm going to say specifically when people go through um, suicidal thoughts, they go through a lot of depression, they go through drug and alcohol, they have a lot of shame and guilt. And for me, it was very difficult. It was easier for me to forgive others than it was for me to forgive myself. And I needed help with that from like my loved ones, from, a coach that I hired. I needed it from in as many directions as I could. All the people that I worked with, they were amazing. Yeah, like forgiveness and that stress and that turmoil we feel inside, that guilt and shame we feel, man, it is this chronic stress in our body, and it leads to all these negative things. And I go into the third bullet point, like finding peace in the relationship individually is so important. And however we capture that, if it's any of those things I said or your own ways, and I'm open to hearing anybody's way that they have it, it's so important for us to learn how to forgive ourselves.
I agree wholeheartedly, Chris. I have a lot of mom guilt that I still work through. Um, Unfortunately, my daughter experienced front row to all of the mess. Fortunately, she got to see it be repaired and healed and moving forward. She's still on that journey with me, but um, yeah, it came up a lot earlier today too. Some of the mom guilt, she's told me over and over and over that she forgives me. She doesn't think about it. But I still have these little piece of shame where it's like, man, I was supposed to be her safe person. I wasn't. Like that really, really, really hurts. But I get to be safe today and I get to hold space for her today and I get to teach her today how to crawl out of dark spaces. So if she ever finds herself there, she can know that it's possible. So I know there's a lot of positive things that come with it. But yeah, forgiving myself, I feel like I've done a lot of it, but I also still feel like there's certain pieces that are difficult to let go of. It's really hard when you start dissecting and getting into the details again, to own it and be like, yep, I did that. I did all of that. And it still sucks that that happened. Um, so yeah, Chris, I mean, I agree. Forgiving myself has been an interesting process as well as forgiving others. I feel like it's easier to forgive others than it is to forgive yourself, but depending on the circumstance, I guess.
Thank you for sharing that, Cami. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay. Forgive others not because they deserve forgiveness, but because you deserve peace. And like I almost say that I think everybody deserves forgiveness. Like I like the quote, and I think it's true, right? Like do it in the beginning because you think you deserve peace. Yet everybody deserves forgiveness.
Yeah, I mean, even the ones who aren't sorry, right? Like maybe some people that have wronged us that aren't sorry or that don't know or that, but whatever's still tying us to that emotion where we need to forgive them. I think that the biggest piece of this is because we deserve peace. Um, and I don't know. This for me, this hits on a different personal level, like maybe some bad experiences that you've been through or some type of trauma that you've been through. Um, I don't think they ever will know that I even had to go through the process of forgiving them, but I did. I didn't have to tell them I forgive you or ever see them again, but I had to cut that emotional bind and forgive them so that I could move forward and find my own peace.
For sure.
And that's beautiful. I like that.
I think I find that even if they don't know, I like all I can do is pray that they find their own way and their own journey. Like
Right.
the reason I say I believe that everybody deserves forgiveness because I'm gonna go back to listening, understanding. Like the guy that molested me, he was a cousin. I like he has daughters, so I hope he's not doing that to them. I have no idea what his experience was. I have no idea when my dad hit me, like what his experience was. Right, and as I grow up, like I learn more about my dad's past, and I go like, oh, well, his parents treated him that way. Like, of course, right? Like somebody's got to break the chain. I'm not saying he was right or wrong to
Yeah.
do it. What I'm saying though is when I understand people's past and getting older and older, like I understand now everybody has a past. Everybody's past is not perfect because none of us are. And so therefore that makes me think like if I can remember everybody is really literally doing the best they can with what they had. They're not out there trying to damage. They're not nobody. I believe this, and I don't know. There's probably some people, but I believe there's very small 0.001% of people that get up and go like, you know what? I really hope to damage some relationships. I really hope to mess up some people today. And if they do, those people are very hurt, and they haven't learned how to forgive or heal or process those feelings and emotions. And hopefully, if we run into each other that day, hopefully I can be a good guiding light to help them understand like, oh, that person didn't attack me the way that used to happen. Maybe I can like learn to let something go too.
I love that. Thanks for sharing that, Chris. And I agree. I think that hurt people, whether it's intentional or unintentional. If you don't do your own personal healing, I mean, it's a side effect of anybody that's in your life that you're going to end up hurting them. Um, and forgiveness in traumatic situations for me, I just really, I agree with you. I think that whatever, and I don't even know for the example in my brain in the trauma in my past, I never will see this person again. I don't know where they are, how they exist, what they went through, but I know that it was dark enough that they had to react or lash out. And I hope for their sake and for the world that they found their healing because I found mine. I forgive them. I forgive the situation. Um, And same, I hope it's not happening, continuing to happen to other people. I hope that, you know, they're able to find the healing that they need so no other people could be hurt. But in this situation, if I get to be one voice for another girl or another child or another person to help, me too, let's heal this together, then I think that I'm up for that. Like, I'm up for that challenge. I'm up to help other people understand that they're not alone, and to forgive so that you can breathe easier. You may have the proof of what happened, but what are you going to do with it?
Mm, that's a wisdom statement right there. I love that. Carolee, would you like to share anything before we go to the last slide and I say until we see each other next week?
Go ahead and move to the next slide. I'm good.
Okay. Says forgiveness says you are given another chance to make a new beginning. And I think that's what all this is about, right? For either side of the healing. It's about like finding, I will say, another chance, a new beginning, and I will say like a new healthier start to the relationship, a new healthier start to us, a new peace and love connection. Because when we have grief, when we have loss, and we don't learn to forgive or let go and accept and forgive, like there's always that negative emotion that's lying. It doesn't even matter if it lies dormant for years. It's lying there. And it's still disconnecting us a little bit from each other. And Kirli, as you said, like it can be a connection to God and then a connection to each other. But if we aren't forgiving, we're missing a connection either this way or both.
Yeah.
And if we're not forgiving ourselves, we're missing the key center point to the connection, which is where they cross.
And plus, part of burying that database is forgiving.
It really is. Do you guys have any other, and I know we got like 1 minute and I'm not in pressure to jump off, but I want to respect you guys' time. Is there anything that you guys want to sum up and add in before we say goodnight and we'll see you next week?
I'm just really grateful that you guys are doing this, because each time that I have gone to groups that have been there to help my daughter, I've learned a lot and I've grown from it, and again, that's just part of the journey. It's part of the process, and I love it, because who knows what I am learning now will help someone else down the road.
For sure. Thank you both for being
Awesome.
here. Sorry,
Yes,
Cami, go ahead.
thank you. No, I was just going to say thank you, Carolee, for showing up and for being vulnerable, and Chris for all the wisdom bombs. I feel like that was a great group, even with just the three of us, that went well. So thank you both.
Yeah, you're welcome. Carolee, if you run into anybody and they want family support, even if they've never stepped in to I Am Recovery or their family hasn't, I hope you can always send them our way as far as jumping on the family support if that's what they need. You meet somebody along while you're serving a mission, if it's appropriate, you can always throw that out there, because we're really about helping people no matter what, because we all need that listening ear. We all need somebody to understand, and we all need we're all the there's I'll give you my last saying. So there's a gentleman standing on the edge of a corner at the stoplight, and there's a person that walks up next to him, and he's like, "Hey, do you need help across?" And the blind person's like, "Yeah, that'd be great." And he's like, "Why do you help me?" And he goes like, "Because we're all the blind men trying to cross the street at some point." And that's just a metaphor for life. We're all the blind person trying to cross the street. And when we help somebody else, we're not doing it because we know somebody else will hopefully help us. But as human beings, we all know we hope to connect with somebody that will help us. And that's what we want to be. That we want to be that person helping the blind person across the street.